On today's episode of Beauty Behind the Brand, we have McKenna Smalley on. She is not only our social media manager for both the podcast as well as my brick and mortar location, Miskoka Aesthetics, but she is just an entrepreneur who has started her own marketing agency and just talks about the journey of that, as well as how to actually brand yourself, how to actually be authentic within your brand and being part of the audience, really knowing what your audience is needing and wanting when looking at your social media. And how we also talk about now, Instagram is kind of like the new Google. So let's dive into this episode because there is so many takeaways. And if you need to be inspired when it comes to social media or looking to actually hire someone to take over your social media, this is the episode for you.
So I have an exciting guest today. I've been so excited to actually hear your story, McKenna. I know you work with us for both the spa as well as the podcast, doing our social media, our outreach for our podcast. And there's just so many things you do for us, our newsletters. There's just the long list of things you do. And you've been a huge part of the growth for the podcast as well as even our spa brick and mortar location. And I don't know how you do it, but you always seem to get the girls to do videos. And I've been trying for years, and you've got them doing all these fun videos and great content. So I'm excited to hear your story of kind of how you got into being your own business owner as well as being a creator, and where you kind of have advice for maybe other listeners, whether that's spa and salon owners, podcasts, hosts as well. So I'm really excited to hear your input on where the industry is kind of going in 2024 and also your story.
Yeah. First of all, I'm so excited to be on. So thank you so much. Yeah, so I guess I kind of got started. Well, I went to university, funny enough, for journalism and communications. Long story short, I kind of realized that journalism was just not my passion, what I loved, but through my other communications major, I kind of discovered that I really liked my marketing classes and kind of that realm of things. So basically, throughout my undergrad, I did a couple internships. I actually went to Madrid, which was really awesome, and I got to do a fashion communications internship and luxury brand management. And we worked with Vogue, Dolce and Gabbana. It was a really, really cool internship. So that really ignited my passion for social media and branding. And then from there, I did another internship in my final year of university with a boutique marketing agency. And I had the absolute best experience there. And I learned so much from these two girls who started it. They're actually in my program. And so seeing them go through the same program that I did and then starting their own social media marketing business was really my inspiration, and I just really admired all of that experience from them. And then from there I graduated, and then I did a marketing job post grad. And yeah, from there I just was all about getting all the experience I could. And yeah, I was really thankful for those opportunities. And then yeah, from there I worked at a social media marketing agency, and again that was a great experience. And what I learned through all of my marketing roles was that you kind of wear you're not only a social media marketer, you're also a graphic designer, you're also the website person. You kind of do all of these tasks that I had no idea about. So kind of naturally through those roles, I started learning all about design stuff. So that was great experience. And then yeah, from there I kind of always knew that I wanted to like be an entrepreneur, go solo. I just wasn't really sure when exactly I wanted to do that. But as you know, there's not really the best time or an ideal time to start. You just kind of have to start. Yeah, so I guess it was a year ago I quit my agency job, and this whole past year was just about building my portfolio and then getting everything organized to go solo. And yeah, back in November I went solo, and here we are.
Amazing. What was one of talking about kind of working abroad and seeing in different countries, like what you're
Mhm.
saying about Madrid, what was some of the biggest things that was eye-opening for you in that experience?
Yeah, oh my gosh, so many things just about like I don't know, everything from like working like as a team with everyone and just like all of the opportunities. Like there's really I like did not realize how many opportunities there are in marketing and like how many different avenues you can take. But there truly is like so much you can do with it and like so many different industries. And yeah, it's just really eye-opening to see like all of the, especially like with social media now, there's so many opportunities you can like kind of run with. So
Mhm.
yeah, it really got me excited about my career.
Yeah, there's no borders. Like I even think of
Yeah.
that even with like beauty brands and like e-commerce and all the things in social
Mhm.
media, like the podcast too. Like we've been on talking to people all over the world, and it's such a
Mhm.
great experience to be able to kind of realize that in your industry that there is no borders of where
Yeah.
you can kind of push yourself or travel, and you can work remote, which is amazing
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, it's really great. Like I'm really thankful like I do have the freedom to kind of say like, oh, like I can take this day off to like go do this, but like I'll work on like the Sunday or the Saturday instead, which like I don't mind doing. Like I have like some people who are like, oh, like I would never work on the weekends, but I'm like, yeah, but like I took like a random Wednesday off to like go do this instead.
Mhm.
So like yeah, that part is really great.
Yeah, you're really good. I really love like seeing your day-to-day schedules, like how you're like, oh, this is what's going on today. Because also people do realize that as entrepreneurship, and that's a prime example what you just said is even though I work for myself, I'm still responsible to get this work
Yeah.
done. And
Mhm.
that's what I find on creativeness. I always find like I'll all of a sudden get a spark of inspiration. I'm like, I want to record a solo episode, or I want to be able to jump online and play around with Canva for a new like post that I'm going to have regarding our
Mhm.
special or something, right? I don't have to do that now because you do it. But like, you know what I mean? It's like you get these
Yeah.
sparks of inspiration. And I think that's what it's great about having those flexible hours and people that can work remote
Mhm.
where they don't have to be that 9 to 5 structure, but they can jump on a Sunday night because they had such a great weekend with friends that inspired them to be able to do
Yeah.
something and fulfill those tasks that are needed. What is like if someone's looking as like a general entrepreneur kind of way, what was it like leaving like a secure job, knowing you were going to go out on your own? Was that like, what was kind of your mind frame around that?
Yeah, it was definitely scary. I had like this time last year, it's funny, like I see all like my memories and stuff coming back up on my phone, and I was kind of going through it, but like I knew it was the best thing that I needed to do. But of course, like it was really scary. I kind of had no backup plan whatsoever. Um, but yeah, needless to say, like I kind of was something pushed me over the edge and I was like, I'm ready to go solo, but it was definitely scary and it took a lot of like confidence in myself and kind of like perseverance to be able to say like I'm going like I can do this. It was
Mm.
really scary, but totally
Yeah.
worth it.
And like what you said, like going through it, trust me, I feel like I go through that every like couple quarters. I feel like I just went through that with like the burnout podcast you're talking about too. It's like you're like almost at that breaking point where you're like something's got to give or something's got to change. And it's like having that confidence in yourself to be like, I deserve this. I deserve this
Mhm.
change or something different. And that's
Yeah.
exactly kind of like that awakening moment that you had to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, nothing, you will not learn how to do something faster than like quite literally being forced to do it all on your own. And like I have never worked harder in my entire life than I have like this past year and especially since like starting like launching the business. I have like really grinded, but it's yeah, it's I don't know, I've been really happy and yeah, excited to see like what's to come.
Oh, I'm so glad I found you. It was just at a fluke. Danny and I were talking about hiring someone to help with the podcast because just with Miskoka Beauty, and she was taking on a lot of the admin there. And then she loves the editing and like the actual like production part of the podcast.
Mhm.
But it's like the outreach, doing the social, like really making sure that it had kind of its own um identity where I found like we were making it work, but we wanted someone to actually be able to focus on it. And then when you like showed me the first like template of what you were gonna do when we were launching season 3, I was like, I need her to do the spa. Like her branding is exactly what we needed. When I found your profile, I was like, okay, this is amazing. And then I saw that you were in Muskoka. I was like, okay, this is like meant to be. I need to just message her because I found and I know in my mentor group, a lot of other small entrepreneurs say this too, is it's like you're wearing so many hats, and you had just mentioned that too. You're wearing so many hats, but it's like I was throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping that something would work. I did not go to school for marketing. Like Instagram wasn't even a thing when I was like basically getting into beauty school. Like we didn't even touch on that part of it, but I feel like hiring an expert in that field, it's like you wouldn't hire someone who doesn't know how to build a house. You wouldn't get them to build your house.
Right.
It's actually creating and building your social media presence. What is
Mhm.
something that you would say to someone who's like considering hiring like a marketing team, or someone like yourself who's actually like able to give it kind of that customization and that real person behind the scenes, where it's not just like a robot, basically? I know with all this AI
Yeah.
stuff we have, I know you really, even in the captions, really make it sound like our brand. You really have the vision and the mission of
Mhm.
what we're doing with both the podcast and the spa. What's kind of like that input or suggestion you would have someone for someone looking, like how would they kind of find that right person to hire?
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into like having a successful social media account. But like the main thing that I like to really like hone in on is the audience. Like I like to pretend that I'm in like the audience's shoes, and like that's how I kind of like write the captions. And yeah, I just kind of picture like what the audience would be like thinking or like want to see, and I write the captions like based all around that. Yeah, I think for social media, what a lot of people, like a lot of business owners, they might think like, oh, I'm gonna outsource my social media to like get more like bookings or like save time. But I think a really underrated like reason why to outsource is to stay top of mind with your audience. When
Yeah.
I was doing my like digital marketing certification with Google, we had like a section on SEO, and it mentioned how like more and more people are using social media as an SEO tool, which I found so interesting because I actually do that too without even realizing it. Like if I'm going to go like buy from someone or like look up a business, like I'm going to Instagram or even TikTok before, like most of the time before I even go to Google. And yeah, so I think that's a really underrated reason why like having a consistent and like approachable and like I guess aesthetic social media presence is really important so that you stay top of mind with your audience.
Sign up for a free trial of Mangomint today and tell them you heard about them on this podcast. You'll get a second month free. We highly recommend you jumping on board of Mangomint because it has changed our brick and mortar and our spa location for the better. It has taken the guessing work out of everything with their reporting, admin, and clients absolutely love it. So make sure to mention that you listen to this podcast and they will give you a 1 extra free month. So that's 2 extra months that they are offering you through Mangomint. There is no risk. It's easy onboarding and their customer service is absolutely outstanding. So make sure to email them today and hear more about Mangomint from our podcast.
That's a great input. Yeah, if I'm going to get my hair done and someone hasn't posted a picture since like
Yeah.
2019, I'm going to be like, okay, like what happened to your business? Like, why aren't you?
Yeah.
That's a really great point too.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of things that go into um a good social media profile that like an expert wouldn't know. Like for example, when you're searching for something on like Instagram or TikTok, you need your profile needs to be set up in a way that when people come to your profile, they can like understand like what you're all about and like have any questions answered right away because like people scroll so fast. Like I personally cannot remember like the past like 5 things I scrolled by. So your profile and like your content really needs to be optimized to like answer what people are searching for so that they can take action.
Let's talk about from the bio, like
Yeah.
having that. As I know you, I give you free range with our social media. I was like, if you need to edit the bio, the like profile photo, like anything,
Yeah.
you do it. And I found there was like little tweaks that you did that made such a difference. So let's kind of dive into that for someone looking. Let's use the spa for example, because
Yeah.
talking about audience, I feel like that's mostly our audience here. So let's kind of dive into what the key things would be for a bio.
Absolutely. So in your name, you need to have like obviously like your business name and then like your spa. And then you need to have keywords in there. So like some key services Like we have the hours and the Muskoka aesthetics. That's like key information. And then the last line should be like a call to action. It should say like, click here to book your next appointment. Or yeah, just like call to action to like get people to like take that next step. Because yeah, you want people to come to your profile and like know what to do. You need to tell them. And then another part of your bio is like your Instagram highlights. So I like to think of those as a menu for your brand. So you need to come to someone's profile and it'll have like all the key information about like you is say like a special promo you're offering or like your services. It just needs to answer like any questions that anyone will have in just like a really like digestible way.
That's really great. I love too what you've been doing with like the high not the highlights, sorry, the spotlights on the
Mhm.
girls too, because also it gives them like that dopamine where they like it gives them that appreciation and that love, and also for clients to even comment and like almost write a review within that comment so people can click and see
Mhm.
that. But I think it's a great way to like it's like introduce almost like reintroducing the staff. I feel like that's something in the beauty industry is when we have a new hire or something exciting, right? We post about it, but then
Mhm.
it's like kind of like that, yeah, like you're saying like that spotlight of kind of giving them that reboost on social, but then it's also giving them like if someone's maybe not quite booked as much as we need, or someone's maybe offering a new service, or even like what we do
Mhm.
with our monthly special offering, really highlighting that in that
Yeah.
and having faces. That's something
Mhm.
I notice in a lot of hair and beauty is it's like nails after nails. I'm like, okay, well, who's doing my nails? Like, I want to know like about them. I want to know, I even the environment. I want to see what the actual
Yeah.
room looks like. I'm going to be getting my nails done in. So what's kind of, do you have like an equation that you kind of do of how many posts you would have with people versus services versus kind of
Yeah.
like B-roll? I know we talk about reels a lot as well, but
Right.
what's kind of like
Yeah.
that ratio you would suggest?
Yeah. So it's definitely a great point. So I like to show a lot of like humanized content, like show those faces because it makes your brand come across as more authentic and it will allow people to like build those connections with you. Um, Something really interesting, actually. I remember I did a post back on this, but the word of 2023 was authenticity. And that kind of like, if that doesn't say like you need to be showing like faces and like showing your team and content, like I don't know what does. Like people really want to see the faces behind your brand. Like they want to see that like behind the scenes content. They want to see like who's actually like doing the services. Like they want to, yeah, people want to feel connected to a brand. They don't just want to feel like people are tired of like the corporate kind of like
Yes.
really professional social media presence and people want to see more of like the fun side and authentic side of brands because yeah, it'll allow you to connect with them.
That's why I think TikTok did so well, right? It was
Mhm.
just like such a more raw way of doing content where Instagram's more of that polished aesthetic look. And then the
Mhm.
content, like Danny and I were talking about that not that long ago. We were saying like it's so funny, we almost have to shoot two different types of content for like the same video because it's like
Mhm.
almost like the bloopers effect
Yeah.
works better on TikTok, and then the more polished, like aesthetic side is for Instagram.
Yeah, it's funny. You kind of pick up on different like tweaks for platforms. Like yeah, TikTok is very much like unfiltered and like raw behind the scenes content and yeah, just like stuff you wouldn't normally see from a business, like does really, really well on TikTok. And then Instagram is, yeah, way more like curated and polished and like looks so aesthetic and
Yeah.
yeah.
And reels, that's something I feel like is going to be the death of me. I'm like, I feel like I'm like, I put so much time and energy into this, and then nothing happens, and I post the most simple thing, and it ends up blowing up. Do you think a
Yeah.
lot of it has to do with the engagement of the audience, or more of like your tags, your like caption, hashtags? Like, what's kind of, do you find like there's like some type of thing that our listeners could take from that?
Yeah, there's so much that goes into making reels. Um, like right from the bat, it has to kind of spark curiosity the second someone scrolls, like whether that's like your like the text says something that like sparks curiosity or like you're doing something in the video that people like are curious about. You need to like hook their attention right away because as I said, people just scroll and scroll. And yeah, you need to have like keywords in your videos and your captions. So again, just like including things that people are searching for. And then yeah, what else? I'm trying to think. Sorry, my mind's
Well,
blanking.
even the hashtags, I know hashtags were huge when Instagram like first started, where I feel like now I know I think you do it as well, where you're putting the hashtags in the comments too.
Mhm.
Is there a particular reason that you found that has been great for that, or it just keeps kind of the caption clean looking?
Yeah, it really just depends. Like if I find a caption is really long, I'll put the hashtags in the comments. But yeah, otherwise I'll just put it in the post. But hashtags are a really great way to end up on the explore page. So you can actually go into your analytics and you'll be able to see like how many people viewed your post from the explore page. And like all of that comes from like your hashtags and your keywords. So that's how you know if you use like the right hashtags in a post, is that it'll end up on the explore page and lots of people will come to your profile.
Amazing. And the music. I feel like the music
Yeah.
also, like, I'm such a music person. So I feel like as soon as I start hearing like a trendy song or like an audio over top of a video, sometimes it doesn't even have to be anything I'm relevantly interested in, but it's like stops me in that scrolling. I
Mhm.
know I learned this not that long ago when we had Sandra on. We were talking about the like the check mark, well, not the check mark, but the arrow going up for the music that's trending. I feel like
Mhm.
a lot of people didn't actually know that. And that was one of our comments on that video when we
Yeah.
had it on the podcast, that people were like, oh, I didn't know that showed the trending music. So anyone listening to
Mhm.
that, that is something I think is really important for Reels.
Yeah, another thing I really like to do is I have like a list on my phone of all like the keywords for like say like the spa or the podcast. So things that people might be searching for. So say like entrepreneurship or like beauty podcast or just something like related to the industry. And I'll have a list and I'll put it as text in the reel and I'll actually like pull it off the screen so you can't see it, but like all of those keywords are still in the video and Instagram will like recognize it as like words in the video. So when people search those words, your video will come up. And yeah, that's a little hack I like to use for all of my reels.
That's so smart. I do that for our stories when we're posting openings, spa openings. So
Mhm.
if the girls had a cancellation or something, I'll do that, but with the location. So
Oh
instead of
yeah.
Muskoka actually visible, I'll actually put that in and I'll just kind of shrink it
Mhm.
down and hide it. But that's something else that, because so many people, if it's like Gravenhurst, Huntsville, Bracebridge, Muskoka, we can kind of use all those different tags and locations on different story posts too. But I didn't even think about that for reels.
Yeah. I know there's so many little things that you can do that will just really help you like get your content with like get more eyes on your content.
Yeah, that's amazing. What is, I know we were talking about 2023 and the word authentic for 2023. What is kind of the word of the year you're thinking with marketing and social media in 2024 that you've been seeing?
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know about like a word specifically, but just more like behind the scenes
Yes.
content.
Yes.
Yes, people love to see behind the scenes content. They want to feel like almost like exclusive. Like they come to your profile and they like get something out of like your content that they wouldn't normally see. Um, yeah, like anything, even from like packing orders or like showing the behind the scenes of like setting up for a facial, like just random behind the scenes content. People love to see that. And it also, it just, yeah, really, people find it like so interesting and it's always like really engaging.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because when we did our brand shoot in Toronto, and you, I know you have some of the same content, right? Of like
Mhm.
that B-roll, and people just go crazy for it. But then I am not surprised because I look at my Explore page and it's like, come work, come with me for a day in the life of, or like, come with me to
Yeah.
work, or help me pack orders, exactly to your point, or let's do a brand shoot, even
Mhm.
a podcast recording. Like all of my content I save and love and absorb is that exactly
Yeah,
behind
like
the scenes.
people are nosy in like the best way possible. They want to see all of the stuff that like you wouldn't normally see on social media. And yeah.
That's amazing. I think too, what is really great when you and I have like our monthly meetings and talking about like the content and what we need, I feel like it's great because you actually have the analytics. It's like you have the reporting to back up the content. And I love on your, what is the program you use again for
I use Notion.
Notion? That's right. I love, like, I don't personally use it, but I just from the feedback that I've seen on podcasts and using it when working with you, is I love, for example, you're like taking notes, like, this is what we did, this is what I would do different. Maybe this video should have been shorter or longer, or we needed more text. Or I love that it's like you're actually going deep diving and trying to figure out what the audience wants, and it's showing on the numbers, right? It's really showing on those insight reporting on the back
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, social media is not, I say it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like you're not gonna
Yes.
get those quick results overnight. It's something that takes a lot of like time and pivoting. Like you'll find like, yeah, every single month I go through all the content and I'll see like what performed well versus like what didn't perform as well. And yeah, you'll kind of start to see patterns, and I like to like create my content for the next month based on those patterns.
That's what I found when we actually kind of looked, also when I was still doing it. It was like so overwhelming because, as you know, we have so many services we offer at the spa. So it was like, let's dive into our monthly specials. Let's like really curate a real Instagram. Like that is what our month is all about in the content side. And that's where I found it was looking at that, and as well as having our business mentor, it was like, what services do we need more attention to, or what technicians do we need to be busy? So that kind of
Mhm.
gave us the insight also where we need to put our focus on the
Yeah,
content, because you can, I mean, there's so many things you can post. I
so
just,
much you can do.
and for spa it's endless. Like there's so
Yeah.
many things you can do. Where do you get some of your like most inspiring ideas? Like is that through social media as well? Like you're
Mhm.
kind of curating your own ideas and putting your own spin on them, or where do you kind of find that
Yeah.
inspiration?
It's funny, sometimes I'll have days where like I cannot think of a single idea at all, and other times I'll be like falling asleep and I'm like, oh, it's a really great idea. So it really just depends, but my like best tip for finding ideas to create content is I have like a list on my notes app, and I'll just have all the potential problems that like your target audience might be facing. And then I like to create content that like answers those problems or like answers the desires for them. Yeah, it's really again just like putting myself in the audience's shoes and like what I would want to know before buying like the product or the service, and just creating content that answers those questions.
That's so smart. Like I feel like that it, I think of that with the podcast too, right? It's like when I'm interviewing someone, I'm also like the audience because I want to hear these questions
Mhm.
and the answers to these. But that's a great way of kind of having that. I do that, I guess, with podcast topics too, where I'll batch a bunch of ideas that or things I've been going through, and other listeners might also have been going through the same thing or have interest on that guest speaker that we have on too. What is
Mhm.
like one of the things when you are doing like onboarding with somebody, is it like have you turned someone away if it just doesn't seem to be like a good niche, where it's like a construction business, let's say, and you're like, this isn't really my niche, or like
Mhm.
my insight of what I know a lot about, I don't think it's a good fit? Or what's kind of your
Yeah.
onboarding process like when bringing on
Yeah.
clients?
So the first step is always hopping on like a little discovery call, and that's really where I can kind of gauge like if we'll be a good fit, if I see myself being aligned with like working well together or kind of like your industry. And yeah, I have had to say no to people before because like you just kind of know right away like if you're going to be a good fit, and like I can just tell like when some people just they just aren't ready to invest in like outsourcing for social media. And yeah, so I've said no a couple times for that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's like you're gonna have a working relationship with them, and if they're gonna be also the personality, if it just doesn't jive, right? Because
Mhm.
also you as like a contract like freelance worker, like you're also the one like having to deal with customer service, like you're doing
Yeah.
all of the things, right?
Yeah, and like part of being a freelance is setting those boundaries. And if I can tell on a call that like right away you're not gonna meet those boundaries or kind of respect them, then I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, and that's where I found like when we had our first call, even social media, like even the way you were messaging back and forth, and then when we jumped on the discovery call, I'm like, is she real? Like, is this like a real? Because we were in such desperate need of finding someone, and even for us as like a company, I had been doing the social media for like 9 years almost, and I'm like, it's so hard to let that go as a business owner too, on like our side of to be able to get someone to take it over. But as soon as you did that template of like the first month of content, basically you were gonna throw out, and I was like, okay, this is better than I could do, hands down.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, there's so much planning that goes into social media content. Like, I don't think people realize like the amount of time it takes. I saw a statistic somewhere and it said the average business owner spends like 6 or 7 hours a week on social media marketing. So it's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, like the amount of like the amount of time it actually takes to create content that, first of all, people like actually want to see and like find valuable. It takes a lot of planning and time and just energy.
Oh, I told because after you took over, like I still sometimes post or like on like our stories mostly, just like little things
Mhm.
that might pop up, or just because we are like I'm in at the spa, the girls are sending me stuff, but I'm like I almost had to break that habit of
Yeah.
wanting to jump on, and like even Canva, I don't think I've jumped on Canva since you started. Like it's a habit that I was always doing, and I felt like it was always on my to-do list. And it was, yeah, I would take up there would be days, like maybe 2 days a week, I would be on social media trying to figure stuff out and what I was going to do. And even the
Mhm.
newsletters, like you taking that over has been great because it's really foreshadowing the newsletter to the social media. It's really paired together.
Mhm. Yeah, and for like the spa, I like it's so organized with month to month. Like we focus on the special. So like I think that's a really great like great advice for other spas is to just really hone in on like one service a month because it can get so overwhelming when there's a lot of different like ideas and topics just like being thrown at you every single day. So when it's like consistent, people also are reminded like every single day of a specific service. And yeah, people need a lot of time. Like they're not just going to see one piece of content and think, oh, I'm going to go book that facial. Like they need to be reminded a couple times before they actually like take action.
Yeah, I think it's like up to almost like 4 times or something, like for someone
Yeah.
to actually like make a purchase. I know like when we talk about sales with Miskoka Beauty, that's something I think it was like 4 times or something, or like abandoned carts when people are like going to be purchasing,
Yeah.
but then they get that reminder again on social media, and then they go back and actually place that order. That's
Yeah.
something I find with doing our monthly specials, but then also seeing what's going on. Like we were talking about like spray tanning. Okay,
Mhm.
prom, formal, weddings, like that's more of like a summer thing that we want to push that. And even in December, we know our technicians are busy because of Christmas. So we're going
Yeah.
to push our spray tan booth because it's automated and it can push people through every 15 minutes. So it's like on our end is like the business owner trying to digest what makes sense but
Mhm.
then you're actually making it like happen. Like it's like
Yeah.
we're kind of brainstorming together and figuring it out what makes the best analytics, and even the booking rates. Like the special that we just had for this month was one of our most popular specials before, but even
Mhm.
the girls were saying this is the most it's ever been booked. And I think
Yay.
everyone who came in was saying it because of social media. I saw the videos because we really honed in on
Yay.
the reels, right? I think
Yeah.
seeing like, for example, the hydrobrasion, seeing that junkie jar, seeing the actual stuff, you came in for a facial too, which I think is
Mhm.
also important to actually experience what you're selling and what you're kind of promoting for clients too.
And again, like putting myself in the audience's shoes, like I'm gonna be honest, before I had no idea what a hydrobrasion facial was. So when I was creating content, I'm like, I want to create something so that when people see this, they know exactly like what they're getting or like the results from it. So yeah, I just kind of created content like, oh, I have like dry, dull skin that like feels so my pores feel clogged. And then content that's like, you will leave with the cleanest feeling skin ever, like just kind of hitting, answering all of those problems that people might have, and showing like the behind the scenes with all of the steps and like exactly what you're getting. Because yeah, like someone like me, I had no idea like what really was involved with that facial beforehand.
And it was so funny. We were both messaging each other. I'm like, are you gonna do like come with me for a hydration facial? You're like, yep, that's the plan. I'm like, okay, perfect. It was just like we're on the same wavelength. And that's what I think is so important when you're finding someone to do your marketing. It's like you just understand each other's language. You just understand what the visual look is. And I don't even like when you're like, oh, do you want to review this? I'm like, I feel like I don't even have to review. Sure, there might be little things of like technical things when it comes to the aesthetic side, but
Mhm.
to be honest, it makes the job so much easier when you find someone who just gets it.
Yeah, and that's another great point too about it's like a collaborative process. That's really it's like a well-oiled machine, you could say, where yeah, we just kind of like get each other and it's not like you can't just hand off your social media and expect to like never talk to that person again or blah blah blah. Like you have to be able to like review the content and yeah, put in your input, like say this is like the service that works well for promoting this month and yeah, really just giving like your feedback and like putting in the effort to make it a collaborative process is what makes it work well.
Yeah, I think so too. There's even with the spray tanning, I was saying to you too, like you got to come in and try the spray tan booth because there's just like even when we have new hires, I'm like, girls have a free spray tan, like you've got to experience it because you can't sell it unless you try it. It's like us with skincare products. I've never tried that exfoliation like scrub before. How am I going
Mm,
to sell it to someone? So I think
yeah.
that like for my advice to I think listeners and people who have even if it's like a high school student helping with you marketing or one of the other girls at your spa salon or your receptionist, it's like get them to actually be the client, let them be the model for onboarding and training, let them actually experience the touch and feel of those products and services.
Mhm. Yeah, because then you can speak from experience. And I found after doing that facial too, like writing all the captions came a lot easier because like I knew exactly like what it was like. And yeah, that's a great tip.
Yeah, and I think the girls think of you as part of the team now as well. Like I was telling them yesterday that you were going to be on the podcast and I was interviewing. They're like, "Oh, McKenna." They're like, "When is she coming in next?" Like I think it's like creating where it's not just like you're this like yeah, you're a contract worker with our business, but it's like you're still part of the team where like
Mhm.
they know who you are when you come in. When you came in for our brand shoot as well, like it's like you are part of the team and I think that's part of people, yeah, you might be like almost like this invisible employee where you're working behind the scenes, but it's like the business would not be operating and be working as smoothly if we didn't have those things. Like the newsletters. I don't think
Right.
people realize like every month, like our staff, for example, like the amount of work it takes to send out a proper newsletter for those headers, how to
Mhm.
actually be able to express that service to clients and get them in. Because not
Yeah.
everyone has social media either.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Hey there, beauty enthusiasts. Are you ready to take your skills to the next level and dive into the world of lash lifts, tints, and brow laminations? Look no further than Miskoka Beauty online courses. With Miskoka Beauty, you'll learn the artistry of lash lifts and tints and master the technique of brow laminations, all from the comfort of your own home. Plus, each course comes with a full kit included, ensuring you have everything you need to succeed. And here's the best part. Our listeners get an exclusive offer. Use promo code podcast10 to save 10% off any online course at Miskoka.com. So why wait? Elevate your beauty game today with Miskoka Beauty online courses. Visit Miskoka.com and enroll now.
And yeah, going back to the team, like, yeah, I walk in there and I'm like, all right, guys, we're gonna film this, this, and this today. So get on board because this is the content that people want to see.
Yeah, and that's I think I don't know what you do to get them to do it, but like it's like pulling teeth for me. I don't know. They're just like, "No, I don't want to do it." And then you come in and you're like, "I filmed this video. What do you think?" I'm like, "How did you get them to do that?"
Yeah, I come in with my little microphone. I'm like, okay, guys, it's gonna be a great video.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. It's like that team morale, right? Like getting everyone
Mhm.
excited and it also helps promote them. It helps them to
Yeah,
build clientele and to get busy.
yeah. And then people can see, like, again, the faces behind the business and connect with you and yeah, all that good stuff.
That's amazing. What is some advice for someone who is looking, let's say, to start a business from scratch? Like I know you also have a really strong branding side. You help a
Mhm,
lot of people with logos, creating
mhm.
like kind of like that. What is it called again? It's like like when it's like your name, your colors, all that stuff. What's the
Like a brand design.
brand design? So what like when you have someone coming in and let's say it's for a spa and they have like no idea, they have the name, they just have
Mhm.
the name, they have no idea. What is kind of that process looking like when you help someone with the branding and how the aesthetic of it's all going to come together?
Yeah, so the main thing is like hearing about like who your audience is. That's kind of what really like sparks the ideas for the design part of things. And yeah, I'll just go in and try to make it like everything cohesive and yeah, just like be, I don't know, it's hard to explain.
It's such like a
More
general, it's such a
inspiration.
general question because I think of you, for example, like I asked you, I was like, how did you come up with your name? Like Howdy, like that. I'm like
Yeah.
the colors, the branding, and then you can actually express exactly what you had said to me on how you came up with that name because I think it's such a unique spin on marketing, but it's also so you at the same time.
Yeah, so that's funny. So I grew up on a farm, come from a farming family. We're potato farmers. And so I've always kind of been like a small town country girl, and that's really what inspired the name. I wanted to stay like true to the roots and something that kind of felt like me or like an extension of me. And yeah, I was just really passionate about because it's all about me. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got started with that name. And yeah.
I think too with the cowgirl boots, the like summer dresses in a field, like I just feel like it's such a like pure, like happy, like I'll like it's just like I also come from a family of farmers as well. So I
Mhm.
felt like it just was like calling my name. And I also love country music and that's how I grew up as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's like when you're selling your brand or like creating your brand, even if it is a spa and it's like you've got a team, you still got to sell like yourself. You've got to
Mhm.
like for me with Miskoka Beauty, for example, like I was Miss Miskoka, I did pageants, that's what got me into the beauty industry, and that's how we came up with the name. So I feel like there's
Mhm.
always like a reason people kind of call it a certain thing or create the
Mhm.
branding and the colors too, because it is like a personal brand. You are creating something
Yeah.
to sell yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to think of it as like an extension of yourself. Yeah, it should feel personal. It should feel like authentic. Again, there's that word, and it should feel just like something that stands out from everyone else. Like you don't want people to like look at your business and think, "Oh, that looks exactly like this person and this person." Like you want to stand out in a way like yeah, whether that's with like your colors or your name or just like elements of your brand, like you want to stand out in some ways so that people remember your brand. Yeah.
Yes, that's something that I find in aesthetics and in social media in general is a lot of people are doing all the same thing. You come
Mhm.
across the page and it just looks the same. Where that's what I say to some people, like, because I do help a lot with like young entrepreneurs or people wanting to start businesses. And I say that to them, I'm like, what is something that will make you different and stand out? Like, I
Mhm.
always remember this example when I was in aesthetic school. Our teacher said that there was a woman in Toronto and she basically brought Jamaica to Toronto. She created this like Jamaican vibe, like aesthetic place
Cool.
for people to go. They played the music, they had the like all these different canvases with beautiful colors and all the things. And it's like that she will remember that place forever. But if you go to a generic spa that looks the same, has the same feel, it's like what is making you special and what's making you stand out to others? Because when you are scrolling, like you're saying, you've got only a couple seconds, even if that, to actually catch someone's eye. And knowing when you come to see their picture or video, knowing that like that is that person. Like I see you on the explore page, for example, and I'm like, I know that's McKenna. I know that's
Yeah.
McKenna's work. I know that's her vibe. Even if it's one of your clients, for example, you always have your own little spin or something that I know is like McKenna. And I think that's something that is important for brands and companies to know. It's like what is going to make you stand out outside of all this noise that's happening.
Yeah. Like don't be afraid to put some personality in your social media. Like that's one thing. Like I always get comments on like you like I've never seen like a brand like yours before. Like it's just so fun and like full of personality and like yeah, and just like don't be afraid to have fun with it. Like people again like just want to see like they want to build a connection with your brand and they will do that like when you have personality that like makes you stand out from everyone else. And like whether that's through like your content or your branding, just like have fun with it and don't be afraid to kind of go against the grain.
Yeah, and everything is actually filmable. Like I felt sorry for you when you're like, yeah, just forward everything to like a shared camera roll or album share. I was like, oh girl, you don't know what you're signing up for. I'm like, my entire camera roll is all work stuff. And I think that's like, even today, it's like filming like the behind the scenes of this podcast, or doing like you said, like, oh, what I'm doing this morning, these are the podcasts and these are the things I'm doing. So I think everything is content. It's just almost putting your hat on to create it and getting in front of the camera. Like we noticed that with Miskoka Beauty is some of our best reels on Instagram was like me just talking to the camera, me like actually just, it was actually a story, I think. And then Danny's like, we need to save this and actually post it as a reel. And that was one of our best ones, talking about our online courses. And it was just me sitting at the warehouse, filling orders, talking about our courses, and it did really well. But I think because people wanted to see who was actually selling these courses and who's teaching them and who's actually behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think the great tip is to kind of like go through your like the brands you're following and like recognize why you're following them. Like, oh, I follow this brand because they post like this type of content, or like I really love like seeing this kind of videos from them, or like I love the owner or like the face behind this brand. And yeah, just like recognizing what you like to see in social media and like tailoring your own presence based around that.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I feel like that's just such a good way to like to summarize exactly what you need to do with your social media. Is there any questions I'm not asking or anything else that you would like to add, McKenna, that you kind of think would be good to kind of finish the podcast off for our listeners? Anything that comes to mind?
Trying to think. I guess, oh, I will say how important, sorry, it is to actually like be social on social.
Yes.
Like it's one thing to post and just like throw a post out there, but it's another thing to like build a community, because that's what's gonna get like people like wanting to come back for more, is like when you're actually like engaging with people, whether that's in your comments, your DMs, or like on your feed, just like starting those connections, building those connections. It's a really great way for people to like build authenticity with your brand and connections, and like, yeah, build loyalty as well.
Oh, I love that. It is community. That's what I say to people too. It's like we are really seeing like community over competition. And even like if another spa is like celebrating an anniversary, I'm gonna congratulate them, because girl, I know how hard it is. Like you know what I mean? It's like creating that team outside of just your four walls of your business. So
Yeah.
no, that's such
Yeah.
a great point. Thank you so much for coming on. I know we were chatting about this for a while to have you on. I think on our first discovery call, we talked about having you on. So I'm glad that we were able to make it happen today. And I'm excited for people to actually follow you. We'll put all your notes below where people can find you as well. And I think everyone should find a social media marketer, whether it's you, McKenna, or someone else that can really just help them scale their business and not feel stressed about it. I did not realize how heavy it felt on my shoulders of having that social media, the newsletters, the marketing, everything on top of it. And then when I handed it off to you, I was like, what do I do with all the spare time now? So I think it's definitely something I would recommend to someone who, whether they're starting a business and they need help with branding, or someone like myself who's been in the industry for a long time and needing just someone to take that step to help bring us to that next level.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, I had a really great time talking about social media, and yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Well, you nailed your first podcast, so there you go.
Ah, thank you.